Welcome to Focus Washington. I'm Chuck Conconi. My guest today is Sue Sheridan, who is President and Chief Counsel of the Coalition for Fair Transmission Policy. Sue, thank you for being here again.
Thank you for having me, Chuck.
Well, you know, we've just come through a remarkable off-year election, and the Senate is now Republican, as the House has been Republican, so everything's going to change. What is that going to mean for energy policy?
My thought is that for energy policy and perhaps legislative agenda overall, that the presence of one party being in charge of both chambers will make for potentially a better policy discussion. The Republicans being in charge means, of both houses, means that they have to show they can govern and that they can get beyond gridlock, at least in conversations with each other. So I'm optimistic we'll have a enhanced opportunity to look at the issues closely.
You really think they'll get beyond gridlock because they're going to have a lot of battles with the White House?
I think within the legislative branch, they may not have gridlock. You raise the right question, which is whether any product coming out of Congress runs into another stumbling block at the White House. But in the area of energy, I think that it's traditionally been so bipartisan that there is a chance that that could be the template for going forward.
What kind of specific legislation do you think we'll see?
Well, certainly, and it's not something my coalition works on, but the environmental issues and greenhouse gas rulemaking is going to be a big one, continuing to be a big concern on both sides of the aisle, but particularly for Republicans. But we've had a lot of concern about the grid and the reliability of the electric grid, how to think about renewables, how to think about distributed generation, and how to make sure everybody pays their fair share of using the transmission system. So I think that will be a focus.
Well, Senator Murkowski is going to be the new chair, obviously, of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. What kind of an impact will that have on your coalition?
I think we're very hopeful that we'll get a careful hearing from her that's on our issues on transmission and FERC's cost allocation and planning rule, Order 1000. She had noticed that a couple years ago when she put out a great white paper called Vision 2020 and took note of the same concerns we have. So we have a good dialogue with her, and we hope that we'll be able to persuade her to look at legislative fixes.
So you think she will be more favorable to your committee?
I think she'll continue to be favorable, yes, in her own right, and then as chairman, that will be helpful.
Well, then there's the other question I want to ask you about is the Comprehensive Energy Bill of 2015, and that Majority Leader McConnell has said there could be one. What will that do?
You know, I wonder whether,
will it come?
Yes, I wonder whether a comprehensive bill is the way chairman and the two bodies decide to go forward, because I think there are always issues that you can carve off of a big bill, like efficiency issues often lend themselves to bipartisan, bicameral support. Whether or not you can move a big bill with all the complications and the germaneness implications that a big bill carries, meaning that any and every environmental issue is also relevant. That's a harder climb, I think, but we'll see.
Well, there will be some major environmental fights, though. There's no question about that. I would think even within the Congress.
I think so, too, and Obama seems to have really designated climate change as one of his legacy issues. Again, with EPA's 111D Clean Air Act rule on greenhouse gas emissions, that's very controversial. And we've already seen a number of members of Congress and both bodies raise questions about whether that rulemaking should go forward.
Let me ask you one quick last question about transmission policy, and which has been a regulatory issue with Order 1000. Do you expect Congress to address that transmission as part of a comprehensive bill?
We're very optimistic that it will get a good hearing. The signals from both the House and Senate are good. We haven't seen legislative language. I think that's yet to come, but we're very optimistic because Order 1000 has turned out to be easy for some areas of the country to adapt to, relatively speaking, but absolutely jarring and difficult for other areas of the country and their consumers to get in tune with and benefit from.
So in spite of all the turmoil we're promised, it looks good as far as you're concerned.
I'm optimistic, yes.
Sue, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Chuck Conconi, and this has been Focus Washington.